All right, you're good to start this time. Okay. Welcome to Table Talk, where we are going to be tying in our education and relatable experiences to hopefully help you guys become better communicators. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Kennedy.
And today we're going to be talking about conflict and cookies. All right, so our biggest thing for this first episode of our podcast is we want to talk about conflict resolution skills and how they can help a marriage. We want you guys to understand what habits may be holding you back from becoming better, healthy communicators, and also learn about tools that you can use to help when you're facing conflict with your partner. So we want to introduce ourselves a little bit more, and so we want to kind of explain why we feel we're qualified to talk about these subjects.
Yeah.
So Kennedy, just give a little bit of an introduction to yourself and
Yeah. So I'm Kennedy. I go to BYU, Idaho. We both do, and I've been married for a little over a year. My husband and I got married in August of 2024, and we met just like the second week of our freshman year of college. So straight out of high school, just straight off into the world. And I had never had any dating experience. I had talked to guys, I had guy friends, but I'd never had a full-on relationship. And so when I met him, I didn't have a ton of background on, okay, what do I do if I like this guy, he likes me back? Do I start a relationship with him right away? How long does it take to be official and things like that? But we started out, and I just immediately I was really attracted to him, and we just connected super quick. And we did long distance. So we're from different states. I'm from Virginia, he's from Georgia. So we did long distance in that sense through holidays and breaks. But we also did long distance as we went on our own church missions. For a year and a half, we were away from each other. And I was in a whole other country. I was in Brazil, so that was hard in and of itself to be away for that long and so far, and the communication was kind of limited.
You probably learned a lot about communication.
Oh yeah.
Being long distance for that long.
Yeah, no, it was hard. It was worth it, but we did learn a lot. We learned a lot about kind of actually quality over quantity a little bit, and how I didn't have a lot of time to talk to him. But the emails I would send him would be huge and had an audio recording of an hour. Mm-hmm. But that was all in one chunk, and that was all I could send. But it still kept us connected. It still kept us going strong. And people were always like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're in a relationship. You have this little communication, and you're not even able to see him." But it worked out. We got engaged a month after I got back, and then we got married 4 months after we got engaged. So it ended up being 3 years basically of dating, and now we've been married for a little over a year, and it's great. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's doing long distance for that long. I can't imagine, because if you don't know what it's like to have such limited communication with the person that you're trying to get to know, but it also probably opened a lot of time to to just talk to each other.
Yeah.
You weren't distracted about the physical part of a relationship, which can be really distracting when you're trying to get to know someone. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm Kayla. I also go to BYU, Idaho. We are both studying marriage and family studies. So we've had lots of classes about how to form good relationships, what healthy relationships look like. And I am so grateful for this decision to go in this kind of career path, because I've learned so much about relationships. And for me, it was super helpful because I did a lot of dating throughout high school, and I avoided getting a serious boyfriend in high school because honestly I felt that they were too much work. But I learned how to build relationships with people. And I learned a lot of bad habits. I feel there's one specific relationship that I spent majority of my time and energy on throughout my high school years, and even after high school and beginning of college and everything. where there was that kind of like maybe decision that we were going to take it serious when we were both in the place where we wanted to like date seriously. So we would talk to each other, communicate, and then when I'd get mad at him, I would block, I would like shut down, I wouldn't talk, I would punish him, doing the silent treatment, like all the things, all these super bad habits. And I was just so unhappy because I felt like we were so prone to like getting into arguments all the time and not being able to talk about it. So when I started these classes, I was out of that kind of like almost relationship, and I was learning so much about ways I can improve, and I like vowed to myself that I was going to learn how to communicate better. I was going to be a healthy communicator.
Good.
And I'm so passionate about this specific topic of conflict resolution now because it has done wonders. So there are a lot of benefits to conflict resolution, and just to make it clear, there's a difference between conflict and contention.
Huge difference.
So conflict is where there's either disagreement, there's an issue of some sort. It happens in any relationship, in any workplace. You aren't going to think the same as someone else. And conflict just happens because you don't have the same mind as...
Everyone's always different in some way.
Yeah. And so conflict resolution is great because it's like, how do you resolve these issues without bringing contention in? And can you like describe a little bit of what contention is?
It's the worst, I think. It's like my least favorite thing, but it happens, and what's interesting is if you don't work through the conflict, it will bring contention, but then you still have to work through the contention.
Yeah.
But I think contention is just, it's what I think sucks the joy out of, or just even the calmness and stability, because you can have conflict and talk through it calmly. It can be reasonable and there can be understanding back and forth, but I think that conflict is when anger and just dislike, like I want to say hate, because well, it could be hate. And hopefully not temporary. Yeah. But just so, and I think the reason why contention happens is because those emotions will boil over, and then the control's maybe not held in as much, and it's just kind of blown out, and so you're gonna say things you don't want to say, and then it's gonna be a snowball effect of just kind of awful words and feelings.
I think you hit it right on the nose when it's like, it's that anger. Like you can have peace, but when you feel, and I feel like a lot of people know, when you feel that peace kind of leave, that you are more irritated, that you are frustrated, you're angry, that's that contention. And sometimes a conflict can start by triggering that, but there are definitely ways to kind of like make the contention simmer down. And so I always loved it because I had many professors say, like, conflict is unavoidable, but contention is more of a choice. And it's based on like, how do we have our actions? Are we helping the conflict, or are we seeking to resolve it? So how have you seen benefits of learning good conflict resolution skills help your marriage?
Well, I would say in the beginning it wasn't super solid. What's interesting is I think we went from the dating conflicts and we figured those out, and then we went to marriage conflicts, and they're completely different. They're completely separate. At least for me, I didn't live with my husband previously, so we'd never lived together until we got married, and so new things came up. But it's helped me so much because looking back to the beginning of our marriage, well, it's only been a year. Not super long. But looking back to the beginning of, I guess, the year and seeing how we'd go through things, I mean, I would nag a ton. I'm not saying I still don't, but it's a lot less. And I realized that I did some things that weren't necessary, and then it would cause us to not talk for a bit, or like we'd be upset at other things that weren't even involved, and it would just become so messy in the end, and we'd end up just being kind of really stressed about nothing. So I think it helped because in the way that we could resolve the conflict is what we did is we just would immediately like nip it in the butt. Like we'd be right there, okay, hold on. Like let's not go further than this. It took us a while, but we'd realize like what our little like weaknesses were, and then we'd find them right there, come to the conclusion on both our sides, and it would be cut out for the majority of it would be done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think like even in that short amount of time, you can see benefits to learning what's healthy and what's not healthy, because you feel it. You like genuinely feel what it's like. And I know like because I took the classes when I switched to this major and I started learning about like how to build a healthier relationship is where I met my now husband, and we've only been married for a month. All right. We've known each other we're coming up on 2 years of knowing each other, and we definitely were friends for longer, which gave us kind of a better idea of our expectations for a serious relationship. But we both had like that same drive of we want to learn how to be healthy communicators, because we both were bad in different ways. And that's kind of how bad habits form, is from past relationships. But if you have bad habits, it's not the end of the world. Just focus on what you yourself could be working on. And so I wanted to share 2 things from studies that have been done about like marital satisfaction and healthy conflict resolution skills. And so it's really short, but I'll link the study. It was the part of the research paper that was just going over research that has already been done in this field. But one study showed that marriages with high satisfaction rates often connect to healthy conflict resolution skills. And this wasn't just like newlyweds. These were people who were in their 70s, and like a good range of people, marriages, that say they have a higher satisfaction in their marriage. And a lot of it's connected because they know how to manage conflict. And on the flip side, a different study showed that marriages that show a low satisfaction rate often connect to couples' unhealthy conflict resolution skills. I don't want anyone to freak out, because like everyone comes into a relationship with bad habits. And a lot of people come into a relationship with bad conflict resolution habits, where they just don't know how to communicate their needs, their feelings when facing conflict. So we're going to go over a little bit of what those unhealthy habits look like. So again, they often form from, relationships we see, relationships we've experienced. Like I said, I had a relationship in high school and throughout that kind of taught me bad ways to kind of manipulate a relationship, by like not communicating and stuff. But we learn from parents, we learn from siblings, we learn from any kind of relationship. It's what we see, it's what we experience that can kind of make us
kind of be how we are.
Yeah.
In those moments.
Yeah, and like if it's not too personal, like what were some bad communication habits that you came into the relationship with?
I was a big stonewaller. That was like the main one, and like the main one I can think of. But I remember there was like a moment of stress that was really heavy for my husband and I when we were engaged. And like I remember I was just kind of, it was a mix between like family things, it was a mix between wedding planning, homework, finding a job, like a whole bunch of things, all in the mix. And I was talking to him, and he's like, let me wind back. He just was trying to talk to me about what was going on so I could get my thoughts out, and I would just sit there and be quiet and be like, I'm not talking to you. And I remember, and I still remember it so well today, because it's something that comes into my head every single time I want to go back to that, is he always would say, you need to be an adult and talk. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's annoying, even if it's something you don't want to do right in this moment, like of course you can take a break, but like stonewalling isn't the answer, and you need to just go through with it, and it'll be so much better in the end.
And stonewalling is when you kind of shut down in the relationship and in the conversation, where either it turns into silent treatment or you are ignoring them completely, like you just shut down, you're not wanting to talk about the situation, and that's like a pretty common one. And Professor Gottman is a big researcher in this field, and he has a lot of great resources. He kind of talks about stonewalling in one of his articles about the 4 horsemen. Definitely suggest looking it up. We personally can't like use it because of copyright,
Yeah.
but he has so many
It's really
amazing
good.
programs and like so many amazing articles. And so stonewalling's a big one. That's that shutting down emotionally. Some other ones I wanted to talk about is like there's stonewalling, there's nagging, so getting after someone. We often kind of see this as a stereotype for like a wife, like always nagging their husband, and like that's unhealthy. Even if you feel it's justified, even if you feel like you can't get anything done in the house unless you nag your husband to help. It's a bad one. It's a bad one. Also, blame.
Blame's a huge one.
Those who always cast blame. Next one, I'm very guilty on this in the past. Acting on high emotion. I don't necessarily get very emotional, but when I do get upset, it's overwhelming. It's not just a little bit upset. It's I'm chill till I'm not. And I'm all the way 100, I'm not. And so acting on high emotion, that is when I would block people. That's when I would say things, call names, all of that, make decisions, just on that high emotion. Never a good thing. Gaslighting is another one. Gaslighting is thrown around a lot in today's culture, but it is a bad way of conflict resolution. It's that manipulation. Acting just convincing your partner of something that didn't actually happen, so they could kind of be done with the conflict.
Yeah.
And then the next one is avoidance, which is also something, I was almost afraid of contention sometimes, so I would just avoid it. I'd avoid talking about it. I would just kind of bury it deep and put it in a little pocket so if later I could bring it out. But that avoidance of the initial situation walking around, and avoidance and stonewalling are very similar.
Yeah.
Have bad habits does not mean that it's the end of the world. It's also good, as you guys are listening, I invite you guys to think to yourself some habits you may have picked up over the years, and those are starting places for you. Now, this is not for you to think about your partner and everything that's gone with them.
It's very easy to do that.
It's so easy to do. You can't control your partner. You can't force them to change, so you really have to start with yourself. That is where the focus needs to be. You need to think about things that are in your control, and the thing that is in your control is your actions and how you handle conflict. So think to yourself, some of the habits that we've talked about, are you guilty of some of them? Everyone's guilty of some of them. We've shared what we're guilty of. So just think to yourself. You don't have to comment or anything. Think to yourself on ways you can change. Because now we're going to be talking about healthy habits. These are better. These are harder for some people. But this is also where I kind of wanted to bring in the topic of cookies. Because these are my conflict cookies right here. And I call them conflict cookies because when I was trying to understand how conflict worked, I related it to something I know well, which is baking or being cooking, baking, whatever that is. I relate it to cookies because one of the first good habits that we talked about is the importance of taking breaks. For me, that is what I learned because like I said, I go 0 to 100 with emotions very quickly. So I needed time to take a break and cool down. And just like cookies, as you can see, right here, I can pick up the cookie and handle the situation as one big whole. It's a solid thing. It's not super messy. It's not gonna fall apart. But that wasn't the case when I brought the cookies right out of the oven. When I brought the cookies out of the oven, they were hot. If I tried to pick one up, it would fall apart into 2 pieces. It's gooey. Some people love that. But when we're talking about conflict, if you try to handle the situation before someone's ready, it can get messy super quick.
Yeah. And even if you want to grab the cookie so bad, just waiting a little more, even if you want to say something so bad in the situation, it might be better to just wait, and in the long run, it's going to be way better.
Exactly. And in one of Gottman's studies that they did, they found that he did a lot of observations with putting couples under observation, and when they found that couples were starting to get contentious, to fight, they'd be like, oh guys, 1 second, we're having difficulty with our camera. They weren't. But so they're like, don't talk about the issue. Really quick, we're gonna work on this. And then they waited like 25, 30 minutes, like not a long time. It doesn't take a long time. And then they're like, okay, we're good to go. Go ahead and like come back to this. And during that waiting time, the couples, they weren't talking about it. They were like reading magazines. They were kind of doing their own thing, but they had this cool down time. And then when they came back together, their heart rates were better. They were able to handle the situation better. Those big problems that they were feeling before didn't seem that big. And that's just like with cookies. Cookies need like 2 minutes. And then you can handle them. You can handle them. They're still delicious and warm, but you can handle them as a whole. So conflicts are the same way. Is that something like that you've used in your life? Is that cool down time?
And it wasn't my idea. It was my husband's idea. And it's something I kind of had to get used to. Because like I said, I'm still working on nagging because it's something that like I think is necessary in the moment. But like he'll tell me, okay, at this time I'll be ready to talk about it, or give me like this amount of time and I'll be ready. And I just have to be like, you know what, okay. And I kind of do what the participants did in that one study. I'll go and like watch YouTube, go read a book or play with my cat. Something that's completely off to the side of what was going on in that moment. And then we'll come back and it's way easier to just get through the entire topic we're talking about, or I guess the conflict.
And how do you like go into taking that break if you can feel like there's a conflict, there's contention? Like how is a break decided?
I think mostly I notice it when we start talking over each other.
Yeah.
When we can't get out one thought after another, they're overlapping and we can't get out a solid thought. I'm getting emotional, he's getting stressed, and then normally he'll need his time and like he'll take it, but that's when I'll be like, no, we have to talk about it. But then I've realized sooner rather than later, it's way better to just do what he's doing, I guess.
Yeah.
As much as I want to be right, a lot of the times, all the times or whatever, he has good ideas too. And oftentimes mine have worked, his have worked, and kind of finding a balance for just each of those things. So.
No, I agree. It's like sometimes it naturally just kind of happens where you kind of notice that's what that person is trying to do. For me, I always have to say like, I'm not ready to talk about this yet. I need a second. And sometimes because again, there's a myth that people say never go to bed angry. Sometimes I need to go to bed angry and upset because it's late. I know I'm not thinking straight and I need that cool down time, and I will fall asleep during that cool down. But in the morning, I have such a clear head and I'm like, hey, I know how to communicate my needs and emotions now because I'm not running based on that high like initial emotion when it was first happening. Sometimes, other times, if it's like in the middle of the day, it's okay to say, I'm not mad at you, but I'm frustrated with the situation. I'm not ready to talk about it yet. And then kind of going off to do your separate things. But the most important thing with this is you have to be willing to come back and talk about it. You can't use this as like, okay, I got my out of this like fight, now I'm going to avoid bringing it up and maybe they'll just forget about it.
Right.
Don't do that. Don't ever find yourself doing that.
And sometimes you even can, after that break, like look at a situation and if you need to talk about it still, you will. But sometimes like that's happened and we've come back and been like, okay, that was so unnecessary, and then we don't even have to. Like we'll both like conclude that it was dumb and we didn't even need to start it in the first place, and then that's our end. Is we just needed some cool down time to realize that it wasn't that important. And even like I've gone to bed during a conflict and like I've woken up, it's not been necessary to talk about it, but like if it has, like you said, we're able to be a little more level-headed with it. So.
No, absolutely. And I think like it's such like this is such a good one. It's like my biggest tool has helped me. And feel free, please, like as we're saying these things, pick one to try. Or pick one that you want to better develop. This one has been such a big one in my life and has helped me so much because I won't act on those high emotions. Breaks are amazing. Just make sure to come back. The next ones, I'm just going to loop them together because I think they go together. Avoid blame and assume the best of your partner. Like, I don't know how much we need to explain that.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. Like, you feel conflict coming. Like, you can feel that contention. You want to be mad. You want to blame them for their part in the situation. But it's best to avoid that blame. And, like, the best way that I have found this is just an exercise that I did in one of my classes. I'm sure you've experienced the same one. You gotta just practice it too. When you have conflict, sometimes it's best to focus on what you feel than saying you didn't do the dishes, you did the action itself. Instead, they want you to focus on I feel language. And so that, say, I asked my husband to do the dishes. This is not even true. He loves an empty sink. He does the dishes more than I do. But let's say I asked him to do the dishes. He didn't. I get home, I'm angry. I could approach the situation as like, you are so lazy, you're so distracted with all of your things, like you didn't do the dishes, so now I'm upset. But instead, I could approach it with saying, I feel super overwhelmed when I come home from work and there's dishes in the sink. And like focusing on how the action makes you feel instead of starting with like, I'm gonna blame you for it.
Yeah. I even think that I need to gather my thoughts. I had a couple while you were talking.
Yeah.
I think that almost goes, I don't even know if this connects enough, but I think we can also choose like our battles. Like, because I was so upset when my husband would throw his clothes on the ground, and eventually I was either listening to a podcast or I was doing something and something was said along the lines of like, just choose your battles, like he's gonna do it for you or she's gonna do it for you, you should do it for them. And like, I used to be, I'd be like, why don't you do it? Like, it's so easy, the hamper's right there. And like, now I just do it for him because I realize he does little things for me too. And there's no point in me getting mad over something that's so tiny. That like, it was me in the beginning that was like, I was the one that decided I was going to be upset over that, and you can choose whether you get mad over something like that. It's up to your importance, and sometimes it takes a while to step back and see, okay, is that necessary for me to be talking about, or can I just deal with it as he probably deals with some things with me? So
yeah, no, and I do think that fits well with the second part of like assuming the best, where you want to be careful about what becomes big problems because most of the time they're not doing it intentionally. They're not. They could, like, people are allowed to forget. I forget to do things. My husband forgets to do things. That is okay.
it's natural.
It's so natural. It doesn't feel good when you feel like you have to babysit someone.
Right.
And so that's why it's like you have to assume that they're not doing this because they know it's going to get on your nerves or something. So the best thing to do is be willing to let the small things go, or if you're not willing to do that, be okay with them bringing up the small things you do, because it is kind of that trade-off. But also assume that they're not doing this on purpose.
To get at you or anything.
Yeah. If it becomes a serious problem, there are ways to be like, oh, well, we need a new system of doing things then. Like, let's figure out a way that will help you remember to do these things, or whatever it be. But often when you want to nitpick the small stuff, there's some sort of need not being met, or whether you're tired and you just can't deal with the small stuff. Take that time to reflect, assume the best, and avoid putting all the blame on your spouse. The next thing I wanted to talk about was not playing games, or in other words, being very open and real with your communication and like avoiding beating around the bush. So that kind of goes well for me with taking breaks. Because if I'm not ready to talk about something because I don't know how to express it yet, then it will seem like I'm beating around the bush. But I think because I don't want to punish my husband when he is trying to actively resolve a conflict, I know, like, he can tell I'm upset about something. If he asks me if I'm upset, I need to be honest. Like, yes, I'm hurt. I was impacted. I'm frustrated. But I don't have the words to express. Like, I don't know how to express my feelings yet, so I'm not ready to talk about it. Or if I do, being honest, not doing the silent treatment and like punishing him as he's actively trying to make things better.
And it can be so simple too.
Yeah.
Like, one thing that I've used a lot, just like thinking about like more recent things, is I'll be like short and simple, like with my words, instead of, because I mean, my thoughts are all over the place. I mean, I'm sure I'm even blabbing a little much right now. Like, my thoughts kind of get jumbled sometimes, but I've realized that if I just say straight up, that really hurt my feelings. I did not like the way you said that, and I don't try and like go into it. Like, he knows what I'm talking about, and then that can be enough for him to get into his mind what's going on my side. He can do the same in his way, and then we can go our separate ways if we need to, and just think about how to better the situation when we come back.
Yeah, and like one of the biggest things I know we've both seen in just society is sometimes people won't talk to their spouse about a problem, but they're willing to talk about it with other people. And my thing is, if you're, just in general, not just in relationships, if you can't talk about it with the person that you're having this conflict with, you shouldn't be talking about it, like, about them to other people.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be willing. That goes into gossip. And that can also paint other people in a really bad light, when again, they most likely aren't doing it on purpose.
Yeah. And I can even think of situations like for myself, and like where I hope that, like, this may not even be with like my husband, but just in work or school, like I hope people aren't like, oh my gosh, she said that to hurt my feelings, like, and then like you said, things can spread, and that would be, I think, the worst with your spouse, because they're the person that's supposed to be the closest to you, the most trusting, your best friend, and you wouldn't want to hurt something that important. And it can be so simple.
Yeah.
You won't even know you're doing it sometimes.
Yeah, so it's great, like, address problem. You can seek advice, but make sure if you're seeking advice on a problem, you're not casting blame, you're not painting them, you're not talking about them in an unkind way. Never talk to your spouse in an unkind way with other people and to them.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Be kind with how you enter the conversation, because if you enter it in an unkind way, then you need to take a break. You're acting on emotions, and like, you needed to come back when you've calmed down, and then address the situation, because it'll avoid hurting people's feelings and everything, right? And that your way is the right way, or whatever kind of conflict or decision you're trying to make, and you're not willing to listen to the other person. Imagine how bad it can make them feel.
Right. Yeah. There have been so many moments where I won't listen to my husband, and he'll be like, no, like, just listen for just a second, and I'll be going off on my tangent, and then I will listen after many attempts of him trying to get me to listen, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that was way less, like, intense than I thought it was. And that takes practice, though.
Yeah.
At least for me, I still struggle with it, but in the end, it's always a lot. Like, even on his side, like, I've even been like, okay, you need to listen to me. And, like, it's something that goes back and forth that we both are, we work on, and we realize that just listening and understanding their side, seeing what is going on, kind of like you were saying, that I feel like that. I think understanding other people's emotions can help you like simmer down the situation a lot quicker because empathy and sympathy is introduced.
No, absolutely, and I think like it's all surrounding the idea of putting yourself in the other person's shoes. Listening can help you do that. It can help you assume the best. It can help you realize you're not really mad at them, you're just mad at the situation, which I find myself saying all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at you, I'm just frustrated with the situation. But that all, like, listening to their side can also help you figure out where you're kind of off, like where your idea of something is different than his idea of something, and so those are all just some good habits that you can start working on right now. There are many more, and we definitely invite you guys, if you have something that we didn't mention that has worked for you, please share it in the comments. And if you have any questions, we can't cover this entire topic in just one thing. I feel like this is an entire college class.
Yeah, I mean, it's the basis of any relationship too, not just marriage. I mean, that could go for your jobs, your family, it just, there is so much to it.
No, absolutely, and we want to be able to answer your guys' questions, and we will be very active in the comments, and so please engage in any way that you can. It really helps us. Again, we want to kind of repeat the learning objectives for this episode. It's all about, we hope that you guys can walk away understanding what habits may be holding you back from being healthy communicators, and that you were able to learn tools you can use when facing conflict with your partner or with anyone. Next time, we will be discussing how communication plays a role in the intimate part of your life, and we'll go into more details about what that is next time. With that, thank you for listening or watching, whatever it may be, and we hope to see you guys next time.